Greetings, Dr. Mark Winton here from University of Central Florida. I want to talk a little bit about crisis and policy. It seems that a lot of times that we generate and make new policy based on crisis situations. Something occurs and we hurry to make some kind of policy to either look like we're dealing with it or actually try to deal with it. Unfortunately, many times these are not well thought out, or they're not based on empirical evidence or evidence-based research, and so we run into a couple problems. But I want to talk about a few of these issues. And first, I'll refer to Boyne's article, The New World of Crisis and Crisis Management, Implications for Policymaking and Research, from the Review of Policy Research, 2009. Volume 26, pages 367 to 377. Boyne talks about the transboundary crisis is what we're going to see more likely now and in the future. So this is a crisis that crosses regions and functional boundaries as well as time boundaries. The example that comes to mind right away would be some kind of toxic waste that could go down a river to other states, or between countries, or water shortages and disputes between countries, or toxic waste washing ashore, all the way across the ocean for that matter, or some other situation that poses risks. So societies are becoming more vulnerable to small disturbances, and a lot of this is related to technology. Some other examples, of course, would be terrorism, climate change, demographic shifts, and also changes that occur in the global power system. So we have a bunch of challenges, and Boyne points out that we have political administrative challenges, resilience of society challenges, and policymaker challenges. Boyne states that there's 5 executive tasks, and that is preparing in a face of indifference, making sense of emerging and evolving crisis, managing large response networks, offering credible answers, and learning under pressure. So if you think about those 5, there's really a lot in there. When there's certain situations, sometimes policy researchers will talk about situations, a coming storm, if you will, and they may be ignored, and others may be indifferent. Politicians may be in the same light. Policymakers may, and policy researchers may wonder why certain issues are strongly being addressed and lots of time going to those issues when there's really not a lot that will occur from policy change. For example, I've seen several policies made in the state of Florida recently that are kind of feel-good policies that probably won't make any difference at all. And of course, there's a lot of energy, time wasted making those feel-good policies. I won't say which ones, but you probably know a few. They may be the same, they may be different. Happens frequently, probably. Also, making sense of emerging and evolving crisis. There may be a lot there may be a lack of information and knowledge about the crisis, and that can be problematic. That uncertainty leads to anxiety. And also managing large response networks. When you have multiple agencies addressing a particular crisis, you can run into turf battles, miscommunication. You can run into misuse of resources, or using the resources in a way that's not as helpful, and so forth. And offering credible answers that the public wants to know why. And so who is going to provide answers, and do we, how much information is presented and how is it presented? All that's very important. And then learning under pressure, that this is all a very anxiety-provoking, rapidly changing, complex scenario. Cetron and Owens, in their 2009 article, 10 Critical Trends for Cybersecurity in the Futurist, Volume 43, pages 40 to 49, talk about information warfare. And I think we need to really focus a lot more attention on policy as it relates to cyber crime and cyber security and cyber threats. They point out first that technology dominates the economy and society, and communication technologies are changing the ways we live and we work. And so this global economy is growing, and at the same time, we're all becoming more integrated. And what we see is with this increased pace of technological change, potential for problems. And so, for example, we may see uneven advancement of countries that leads to conflict. We may see some become more knowledge dependent, and we may see certain groups that may be defined as dangerous gain in power. And then we run into problems of figuring out what policies are going to be the best ones to implement. There's so many different factors that go in there, and certainly we've seen policies that can backfire. In an article from the 90s, Milletti's article, Communication of Public Risk, Its Theory and Its Application, from the Sociological Practice Review, Volume 2, pages 20 to 28, Milletti talks about information factors that come into play, such as the source, whether information is consistent or accurate, if it's clear, if it's certain, the frequency of information regarding what location, how it's presented. Also, we begin to look at the public perception of risk. Is it understood? Is it believed? Is it personalized? And then public factors such as cues, social settings, social ties, social structure, psychological and pre-warning perceptions, and public behavior, protective actions, and seeking more information. And that's a model that Milletti puts together, saying that we should look at all those information factors, the public perception of risk, the public factors, and the public behaviors, and as that relates to crisis. And of course, we get back then into the situation of communicating all of this. And so there's a lot that we need to analyze, including social media, where sometimes I read things and I have to double check or triple check because I don't want to be wrong and cite inaccurate information or reports. Now, this happens to the major news stations and sometimes newspapers, and they'll issue a correction or an apology, but that's the nature of the beast of information technology and social networking. And so that is something we need to consider as well. The last thing we want in a crisis situation is to make policies that are going to have additive negative effects because we haven't quite figured out what we should be doing. Some say we have to do something right away. Others say, well, we need to slow down and take a closer look. Others say there's not, well, time. So how do you balance that? That's a very difficult scenario as well. And hopefully there's some techniques and strategies that we'll see in other presentations and your readings that can assist. And this wraps up this video.